Light and peace, peace and light. Welcome to the OahspeCollegeUniversity, solution to yesterday's ancient knowledge. Topic of discussion today is what does angels feed on? Historically, um, we've heard of stories about angels living among humans, and we've seen where the evidence that they actually do eat among humans. The question now lies is that when these spirits or angels die, uh, when they reside in heaven, what do they feed on? Now, one thing to understand first is that, which we actually see in our physical world today, is like depending on your locality. So, I'll speak on Africa, for example, because I'm originally from Nigeria. Now, and if you go to YouTube, you see a lot of movies or documentaries when they talk about communication with the spirits. Now, you see humans, or you want to call them priests, they take alcohol and feed it on the top of an idol or pour it on top of an idol. They pour palm oil. Give them groundnuts. They give them rice. They give them food that we eat here. Now, it might sound strange to a lot of people, but the spirits around that idol or in front of this idol or these trees where priest or even communication spiritualists communicate with the spirits, they actually feed in the spirits. You see, this is how it works. And so this means that the spirits are actually being fed on. They actually feeding them. You see? And, of course, the best way to see this is either you travel back to, like, they have countries like Trinidad and Tobago. They've got Brazil, Cuba, in fact, almost all regions of Africa is where they give the spirits or trees or idols with alcohol. They give them palm oil. They feed them with, food that we eat here. So now that we've been able to establish the truth from what we see physically, especially for those who live in regions of Africa. Now, funny enough, I live in New York City, and I've seen this during the summertime where they call these people who practice the Ifa religion, where they call themselves Santeria. So they practice what they call Santeria. Now, some people call them voodoo, voodoo religion, whatever you want to call it. And then, they all stem from Ifa religion also. Some people call them Lukumu, Lukumi, whatever. But I've seen this being practiced in areas of New York City, Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, where they feed the idols with food, and they give them food. I've even seen where they've provided them with a bunch of candies. Now, if we were to go to OahspeCollegeUniversity now, because OahspeCollegeUniversity does give more clarity about this, right? So the book of Sentences, chapter 3, verse 10 to 12. Verse 10, God said, well done. Take these Asians. Asians are newborn spirits in heaven. Feed and clothe them, for this is your labor. 11, the Asaphs answered. Asaphs will be what you call like receiving angels, or you want to call them guardian angel, but the more clarity on it is really receiving angels. When the spirits of death die, when humans just die, once they get to heaven, the spirit that receives them are called Asaphs. Alas, verse 11, the Asaph answered, alas, we have tried to feed them with all types of food on which we ourselves sustain, but they will not eat. You see that? Verse 12, God said, alas, oh you innocent, you feed on Ethereum food. So the Asaphs here are Ethereum angels. So you notice, so this is it, right? So verse 12 Even the Ethereans, the Asas who are the receiving angels, they actually feed on Etherean food. You see this? You see that? These Asians must have atmospheric food. Interesting. Even as corporeans are humans, sustain on corporeal food. Go then, fulfill this first resurrection. For as much as you deliver them, so you will be delivered in time to come. Interesting. So yeah, Oahspe gives us clarity in the book of Synthesis that humans who die, who are called Asians, they feed on atmospheric food, which would be the spiritual side of the corporeal food. Now, if you're to go to the book of Synthesis, chapter 20, verse 34 says, as the host passed in front of the throne, Oahspe said, that which springs out of the earth feeds and clothes the atmosphere, but the Ethereans draws from the Etherean world. Behold, the crowns of the earth and the lower heaven are only symbols of a power, wisdom, love, but which I bring for Jehovah contains real virtue. Now, verse 34 here is showing you that the atmospherians feed on what comes out of our world. You see that, and then it gives a division that the Ethereans draw substance, draw food from the Etherean world, while the atmospheric angels, which happens to be Asians or newborn spirits, they feed from what come out of our world. You see that? So here's the clarity. Now, furthermore, in the book of Divinity, chapter 3, verse 16 says, the 11th divine law, if a Zarathustrians would be people who practice the religion of the Creator. In other words, they have faith in the Creator, attains maturity before he dies. His spirit shall be Asian for 2 years. You see that? So remember in the book of Synthesis, chapter 3, verse 10 to 12, where the Asaph answered, Alas, we've tried to feed them with all types of food on which we ourselves sustain, but they will not feed. And then verse 12 says, God said, Alas, all you innocent, you feed on ethereal food. These Asians must have atmospheric food. So if we go back to book of Divinity, chapter 3, verse 16 here, the 11th development say, if Zarathustra attain to maturity before he dies, his spirit shall be Asians. You see that? And during his time, he shall be attended by not less than 2 Asas. You see, when he goes away from his heavenly home, and the Asas shall teach him the mode of travel, the manner of knowing locality, both on the earth and in first resurrection. And they shall teach, this is where I'm going, and they shall teach them the varieties and kinds of food suited to the highest, best education of the spirit. You see that? This is wonderful. So, Oahspe, some years back, I did some video about, education in heaven. Subscribe to my YouTube video and just go on my channel and just look it up. And then he says, but when he travels with his companions for his own heavenly group, then the Asas of the group shall go along with them. And during these 2 years, here it is, and during these 2 years, he shall be provided with food and clothes for the stores in heaven, and he shall not labor to provide himself with anything. This is interesting because we see this in our world when a newborn is born. From the age of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, you do see that humans around that baby, like, family members, brothers and sisters, will assist that baby until the baby becomes, and this is similar in heaven. The Asians have been clothed for, they've been provided for. They babysit these Asians, just like we babysit our young ones in our world. Now, finally, to round this up, this is just to show that angels feed on certain substances. For atmospheric angels, they feed on atmospheric part of the corporeal world, while Ethereal angels, they feed on the Ethereal food in Etheria. Because a lot of people, this question comes up once in a while, once in a blue moon. Hey, what did angels feed off? Yeah, they eat. Angels do eat. They feed on food. They drink. They drink spiritual wine. Book of Agape, chapter 19, verse 25. And the lowest plateau, being on earth, shall be provided as marriage, having everything spiritual in appearance, as they are corporeal on the earth. And it shall be provided with forests, lakes, and rivers, and with all types of animals, birds, and fish, and with whatever is suited for food for mortals. This is the key word here. With whatever is suitable food for mortals. And the lowest plateau shall be called Onchinduwawa, signifying happy hunting ground. Yeah, you have it, brothers and sisters. So let's not confuse the matter that angels, they just sing all day and they don't feed. They feed. They feed on for angels who are still residing in the middle heaven, which is called the lowest heaven and which is also called the atmospheric heaven. They feed on atmospheric food of the corporeal side, while Ethereans, those are angels who have graduated finally from our world and atmospheric heaven. They live in interior. They feed in interior food, which you could call light. If you want to call it Etherean light, Etherean food, whatever we comfortable calling them, they feed on those Etherean part. Now, so here you have it. Angels, spirits of the dead, they feed on atmospheric food, which is it comes from our world, and that spiritual side of it is what spirits of the dead feed on.
Now, there's this misunderstanding that will come up from the Hebrew Israelites and the Kemetic brotherhood and sisterhood that the book of 1 Peter chapter 19 verse 25 is not clear. The book of Divinity chapter 3 verse 16 is not clear. The book of Sanctity verse 20 verse the book of Sanctity chapter 20 verse 34 is not clear. And of course the book of Sanctity chapter 3 verse 10 to 12 is not clear. So here is the one that is very clear and does not require dictionary from Google. You don't have to go to research further. So the book of knowledge, chapter 6, verse 7, as a corporeal man requires corporeal food, clothes, and habitable place to dwell, so does his spirit require similarly, and is so provided within atmosphere, but spiritually. So this is very clear. So this is just for the Hebrew Israelites, because this will come up and saying, oh yeah, what's this brother talking about?
An interesting concept about what we've learned from the OahspeCollegeUniversity is that the angels do feed. With OahspeCollegeUniversity, now we'll be able to learn clearly from OahspeCollegeUniversity that the angels do feed. This explains why when you look at the extra Bible, the King James Bible, these gods were asking humans for sacrifice, burnt offering, because these angels, these gods were hungry and they needed to feed upon. And how do you feed them? The humans and the followers gave these gods food to eat. So your God of Israel asked for sacrifice, and the sacrifice came about because clearly the gods were hungry. So we needed to feed them. So the best way to feed them is by offering them burnt offering, you see, so that they could be fed in heaven. Okay? So here's a decoder from the OahspeCollegeUniversity. Clearly, OahspeCollegeUniversity is explaining to you that when humans die and they become an angel in heaven, they have to be fed upon. They need to feed. So, but these gods that when you read extra Bible, the Jewish Bible, tonight, whatever it is, and you see these anomalies about burnt offerings, animal sacrifices, human sacrifices, food. There's a part in the Christian Bible where God came down and the Israelites were eating with God. That's telling you that This God was hungry and he needed to be fed upon. And we see a lot of this happening in all these scriptures. So what OahspeC is giving you is providing you more clarity. So OahspeC is a decoder, and OahspeC is a spiritual opener that opens your eyes and lets you know what's really going down. You see? Light and peace, brothers and sisters. Subscribe to my YouTube video. More videos to come. You do not want to miss the next video. Light and peace, brothers and sisters. Bye-bye now.